Hey, AudioRoad listener, what is your profit per mile? How about your cost per mile? Or even your bottom line? Stop driving blind and know your numbers. Profit Gauges is absolutely simple bookkeeping specifically for owner-operators. Have instant access to business and tax reports that will help you increase your profits and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. Sign up for Profit Gauges today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Know your numbers and master the journey. Visit our website at letstruck.com or call our Tribe Care Team at 855-800-FUEL. That's 855-800-3835.
Your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, December 10th. We are here live. It's time for the Power Hour. I've got the team here from Pittsburgh Power. We'll hear from them, and then we'll take your calls and questions. We'll talk about anything maintenance. Looks like we've already got some calls coming in, so pick up the phone and join us, 855-950-3835. I see we've got Bruce in the house. Bruce, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Well, you showed up right on time this morning.
I was going through notes, and Angie said, "Are you joining us?" Last time I looked at it, I had 10 minutes, and now I'm 1 minute late.
Bruce,
It's just amazing how fast.
You know what's funny about that this morning? I was actually late. I was doing the same thing. I was looking through my notes here, and I looked up, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I was supposed to start 30 seconds ago. So I was late myself.
Yeah.
Same reason. I was taking. Speaking of which, I'm just going to start with this, and then I'll let you. This is what caught my attention right as I was getting ready to go on the air. So this is a post on X, and so I don't even know if you're aware of this, Bruce. So one guy owns a truck. Let's just lay out the scenarios. Probably using brokers for potentially 100% of his freight. That's pretty common. So you're already giving up a percentage to somebody else. Were you aware of all these dispatch services that exploded during COVID?
I am not.
So they were around, but then they really took off during COVID, like everything else did in trucking. All it is somebody who kind of understands the industry. Many times it was the spouse of an owner-operator. What they're doing is they're finding loads for these people, but they're not brokers. They can't go contract for the freight the way a broker can. All they can do is pull loads off load boards that are already being handled by a broker. So they're just taking the time to go through the load board to find these people loads and then they take a percentage too. My take on this has been, look, I get it. You do a lot of driving, but if you can't find the time to find a couple loads a week, because that's all most of these over-the-road guys are doing, then you need to find another business. Because there's not enough margin here to be giving pieces away to everybody like this. Plus, it complicates your business. Now you got one more company and invoice and everything you got to deal with. So they exploded during COVID. A lot of them have gone out of business, which they should, in my opinion. And a lot of them actually act like unlicensed brokers. It gets a little gray area there. But listen to this post. And this is what's happening because we're back to a normal business cycle, so you have to know what you're doing now. During COVID, there was enough money flying around, you didn't have to know anything. I just can't believe somebody would post this. This is, quote, "Why is it so hard to find good drivers to dispatch for? All I'm looking for is someone with experience, good communication, and does what he says he's going to do. I feel like I'm trying to find a unicorn in a sea of steering wheel holders." Well, let me give you your first clue. If you want to be successful in business, don't start insulting your potential customers. Is that horrible or what? Who would do that?
Sure is. Sure is.
Unbelievable. And I'd like to explain to her that her business is not necessary at all. We did this without dispatchers for decades before she came along. So now if you've got a business that isn't really necessary, you should probably learn how to sell to people, and insulting them is not the way to start. Wouldn't it be nice
No.
if you could just stand around and demand the kind of customer you wanted show up, Bruce?
I tell you, I like just about everybody that comes through our doors is a wonderful person.
Exactly. I have
Yeah.
said if in business, and I'm serious about this, you should be willing to fire your customers. And I have. Some people, it's pretty rare, but some people are just so hard to deal with, or maybe it's a personality conflict, whatever, that I have told people you should go do business with somebody else. But that's pretty rare. For the most part, I really do like my clients.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we do what we do, and
Right.
why I've made it 48 years in this segment of trucking. Prior to this, in my 9 years in traffic and transportation, I would get bored after about 2 years. And there was, you would find ways of doing things better, but nobody would listen. And they said, no, we've been doing it this way for 25 years and we're not going to change. And that bothered me. So I would move on. And then whenever I got into the engine business, this has been a fascinating segment of my life for the last 48 years. Never a boring day.
That's
You meet
right.
new people, interesting people, wonderful people. It's wonderful to go to the Louisville show. It's like a reunion. And sometimes you meet people that you talk to on the phone. And speaking of that, there's a lot of unique names in this industry. And a guy that called in 3 weeks ago and we were talking, he called me the other day. And his last name is Gear, like Richard Gere.
Okay.
Okay? But his dad was an owner-operator. So he named his son High. So his name's High Gear. I love it.
Yeah, I
And I'm
do
sure
too.
he's listening today. I think that is the most unique name
I do
to
too.
be in this industry.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a good one. I
And
like
with that, and with that, I want to mention the owner-operator snowmobile conference, being there is snow. And it is February 19th, Wednesday. We arrive at Daniel Summit Lodge on Route 40, slightly east of Heber City, Utah. And Route 40 comes all the way over through Steamboat, Rabbit Ears Pass, Kremling, where I'm 9 miles south of Kremling, and then on over, I forget the other pass, through Winter Park. And then it joins in with I-70. So it's a very well-known road. It's easy to get to, a lot of parking, and it's Daniel's Summit Lodge. And the phone number, they have cabins and then they have rooms. If you have a dog, you go into a cabin. These cabins are 5 cabins to a row, so I'm in a cabin. The number is 435 548 2300. Daniel Summit Lodge. Arrive on the 19th of February, leave on Sunday the 22nd. You're more than welcome to arrive earlier and stay later if you want, but we normally ride 3 full days, which would be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm leaving Sunday the 23rd, I'm sorry. And there's rental sleds, rental clothes, anything that you need. Great restaurant. It's a beautiful place.
Bruce, how long have you been doing this?
I think we started this in 2000. I know it was 2007 we were doing one, and it was in Oregon, over on the eastern side of Oregon. I'm trying to think. And the town basically didn't have much going on. Larry Selkirk and I stood in the middle of the street for a half hour and talked to a guy that owns a restaurant, and not one car came through. And that was in 2007, but I think we started in 05 or 06.
Okay. Okay. So it's been going a while now.
That's
You
been
might
a
be
while.
coming up on 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
All
It's a
right.
lot of fun. You know, a mountain is more than a mountain. It doesn't matter to an owner operator whether he's on a motorcycle, whether he's in a car or pickup truck or a semi truck. When there's a mountain, it's a challenge. And by golly, these guys do a great job of riding these mountains, even a lot of them that have never rode before. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What else you got today?
That's it.
All right. So let's well, it's actually been a couple weeks since we've had the first team here. I think everybody's here today. Eric and Leroy, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
And just let all the people that filled in know I wasn't calling them the JV or anything, but they were fill-ins.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's new and exciting with you guys this morning?
Well, I was not present for the last 2 weeks for the show. I was at my camp a lot. We were doing some hunting with my dad and son and cousins, and just having a good old time up there, as we usually do.
Did we
some work
bag
around
any
the house.
whitetail?
No, I did not. We
No?
we still have this week left. We have till this Saturday, so we're going to
I-
go try to. We passed up some smaller ones, but we're going to try to get. My son was kind of trying to hold out for a larger one, but I think he'll shoot anything this week. He's got the meat in the
You know,
freezer.
If you drive through Pennsylvania, you wonder how you could possibly go hunting and not get one.
Yeah. Yeah, all you have to do is wash your car. Get a nice
Right.
car, wash
That-
it, take up a ride. You'll guaranteed you'll meet a deer head on.
That's right. So it's so what are the rules in Pennsylvania? Do you have a doe tag? Is that even a thing in Pennsylvania? Get a doe tag?
Yep. Yeah. When you buy a general hunting license, it gives you like all your small game and your rifled deer season. If you want a doe tag, archery, or bear, you have to buy separate tags onto it.
Okay.
So right now
Pretty-
we have 2 weeks of rifle season to shoot doe or buck. You have to have a doe tag, and then you can also use your crossbow or archery license too during that time.
Got it.
So
Pretty similar to Ohio then. I grew up deer hunting in
Yeah.
Ohio.
yeah, ours seems to be a little bit shorter of a season than most places, considering the amount of deer we have. But
If I
I've never been
remember
able
right,
to see.
if I remember right,
They-
when I was
they-
in high school, the Ohio season was only a week.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
I remember
Yeah, they-
going most of the time when I went, I would get something within the first 3 days. So I was never out there a week. And then one year I didn't have time, so I went out on the first day, didn't get anything, and then went out on the last day and also didn't get anything. That was a year I didn't get any at all. But I think it was just a week back then. I don't know what it is now.
Well, my son wanted to go on top of the one mountain that's up. We're north central PA where my camp is. We're about 60 miles from the New York line. We're up in Cameron County. He'd never been to the top of the one mountain, so we drove up there. It's 14 miles on logging trails and dirt roads to get to
Oof.
where we're hunting. So there's nobody up there. And
Right.
once you get in there, it's we call it God's country for a reason because there is literally
Yeah.
nobody. But up on top, we had about 4 or 5 inches of snow. The actual temperature was like 14 or 15 degrees with 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. So the wind chill was like 0 or just a little bit below. So it was cold.
Yeah.
We didn't last all day. It was brutal up
That's
there.
rough.
Just chilly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's
Took the
rough.
fun out of it.
I did do some hunting in Pennsylvania. My oldest sister had a cabin up near Kinzua Dam, and it was out in the
Mhm.
out in the sticks. We used to squirrel hunt. We used to do all kinds of hunting out there. It was fun. I grew up
It is.
doing
It's
that.
beautiful country.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Well, as far as trucking goes, what's on your mind today?
A bunch of Detroits. It's Detroit Day here in the shop. We have a bunch of Series 60s. We're doing ECM tuning. We're doing clutches. We're doing fast fuel pumps, exhaust work. We're doing pretty much all of it here. Just finished up another in-frame on an N14. It's went on a dyno. Made some really good numbers. We actually had to cut it back a little bit for a brand new engine, but it's a mechanical N14, so it's a stout, and just the sound of it and the throttle response is just unsurpassed. I love those mechanicals. They sound so good to me.
Yeah.
That's really all I have going on right now.
All right. Leroy.
Yes.
There
Yes,
he
I'm
is.
here. I'm awake.
Good morning. You sound awake today.
Morning. Yeah, I'm wide awake today.
All right. A lot of caffeine?
So, what's that?
A lot of caffeine?
Well, no, I'm waiting on my, I was going to put an order in today for the brain juice that you got.
You
the
need to
brain
do
fuel.
that. That's right.
Because I kind of want to get off of my caffeine addiction.
There you go.
I don't feel like I need to have 500 milligrams of caffeine a day.
I probably agree. Hey, so you guys keep bringing up stuff that makes me think of stuff that's not necessarily trucking, but that's all right. So are you aware of how to make a chocolate bar? I know it's a really weird question, but so it's pretty
I have not.
it's
No.
pretty simple. Both components that you make chocolate out of come from the cacao plant, from the chocolate plant. You get cocoa butter, which is the fat, and then you get cocoa powder, which is what you mix with the cocoa butter, and you get chocolate. If you don't mix, have you ever seen white chocolate?
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
Like,
White chocolate is just the cocoa fat with sugar in it. There's no cocoa powder. It's the cocoa powder that makes it kind of chocolate. It's basically the same stuff you could mix into milk and make, chocolate milk. So that's the process. You take the cocoa butter, you mix back in the cocoa powder, and you make chocolate. There are companies now that are taking the cocoa butter and mixing in a what are they? Coffee powder, like an espresso powder, instead of cocoa powder. So you get a totally different taste. It's a really mild. You don't get a lot of the chocolate taste. You get more coffee taste. But the bar's got like 120 milligrams. It's not even a bar. It's a little square. It's got like 120 milligrams of caffeine in it.
ooh,
Yeah,
Hmm.
in a little chocolate
That's a
bar.
nice little just tidbit to hold you over until you get your next fix.
Right,
little pick me up.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really unique product. I guess they started over in Hawaii. My son was over there. I was just up at his house. That's where I got it. But he was over in Hawaii and he found them over there. And he said over there, one, they were like $9 a bar because they use real Kona coffee and Hawaiian sea salt. He said, but they were amazing. And then he found a company here that does it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
all right. So, what else is on your
Truck-
mind today, trucking wise?
Trucking related, we've been talking a lot recently about kind of what we're going to do about the N14 ECM problem, because you can't get new ones or reman ones from Cummins, and you have to get all these aftermarket ones,
Ooh.
and those ones are also problematic. And the issue is they have that upfit kit that you can go to a new style Cummins ECM, but it's A, labor intensive, and B, it's pretty expensive to do the upfit. So much so that Cummins recommends that you don't even do the upfit unless you plan on doing an overhaul, because you have to change the camshaft and the front cover and added cam gear. And funny enough, Eric, you mentioned about mechanical N14s. JR says, what if we went the other way? What if your ECM goes bad and you turn it into a mechanical N14? I was
Oh,
like,
that's
that might be
interesting.
easier than to do the electronic swap.
Right. Oh, so we're getting to that point on some of these trucks we still want to run where parts are becoming an issue, huh?
Yeah, N14s especially. That ECM is, I mean, they're not unreliable, but they just don't seem to have the staying power as some of the other competitor ECMs like a CAT or a Detroit.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Detroit ECM issues, but at least they're still available. It's just
Right.
the N14 ECM, you can't even get them anymore, even if you wanted to. Even if you have a wad of cash, you can't get one.
Ooh. Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, so I'm not quite sure what we want to do. We kind of bounced some ideas around yesterday about doing some conversions to something else, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the market's even there though. Are people just turning in their
Right.
N14s to newer trucks? What if we come up with
Well,
something and there's
there's just
hardly any N14s left? I
there's
don't
no
know.
market. And that's
I don't.
usually what happens. That's also why you'll find that the parts that are going to be available are really poor quality because somebody will just crank out something cheap to fill that little part of the market, but there's not enough volume there to make money on.
Right.
But you've got enough Chinese and South Asian companies that'll just crank out crap at, it'll cost them $2 a piece to make them or something.
Yeah, and it's even difficult for the places that rebuild N14 ECMs because the parts internally are obsolete and they
Wow.
don't make that chip package anymore, or this is bad, and they don't even make the inside chips anymore.
Yeah.
So what are you even supposed to do there? It's even becoming difficult or impossible to fix them.
Yeah. Wow.
And I can't imagine when that starts to happen to some of the other
So
things out there on the market.
what isn't there a lot of like custom programming going on in the classic car world and building cars and that kind of stuff? Don't we have people building these kind of things or no?
So a couple years ago, well, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, I looked into something that's like an open ECU, similar to what you're talking about on classic cars, where you have an aftermarket fuel injection system that you can mount onto your small block or onto your LS
Right.
swap or something like that. The 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't have an open ECU for a unit injector, like something that's common on like a
Oh,
60 series or a CAT. They had stuff for common rails, but I mean, putting an aftermarket
right.
uh,
Oof.
open source ECU on a common rail truck surely means that you're getting rid of emissions components,
Right.
or you have to program all that in, which would be a nightmare. They might have something now for um, open ECU for a unit injector, but when I had called, they're like the ECM is, you know, several thousands of dollars, like $8,000 for the ECU,
Ooh.
and we have to send a guy out to help you program it in
Oh yeah.
because it's not like it's not
Right.
as intuitive as like a Holley EFI system that's just like, oh, how many injectors does it have? What
Right.
size are they? How many cylinders? This is like ground up programming
Yeah.
sort of thing, which gives you a lot of flexibility, but you have to be a seasoned engineer to program one of these.
And I bet it's time consuming.
And it's time consuming. It's just I just don't know if it's worth the money. I mean,
Right.
if we had a thing where it's like, oh, it's $20,000 between the labor and the parts itself, because you have to build a harness for all that too.
Yeah.
So if you have 20 grand into this and it's a truck you paid $15,000 for, it's only worth 15. Like
Right.
you're starting to be like, I don't know what to do with these things.
Yeah. That's what's.
Leroy,
Go ahead,
is it a
Bruce.
component, a couple components in ECM that are malfunctioning, and can they be replaced?
Well, that's kind of what I was saying. Sometimes it is just a few components, and then sometimes it's components that they don't make anymore. So even if you do find a problem on the inside, you can't get a replacement part for it.
Can't get a replacement part for the component.
Yeah.
And you can't borrow a component from another ECM and make it fit in there.
Well, you probably could, but now you have another stack of dead ECMs. So it's just like, well, then those ones need fixed, and then you just keep stealing parts, and then you just get a bigger and bigger junk pile.
Yeah.
And now you have, $15,000 worth of ECMs in a pile that are half torn apart.
I recently, this past week, joined the N14 group on Facebook, and boy, there's a lot of questions. Seems like there's a lot of people still running them. So
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the questions were fuel related. Apparently, they're not listening to this show, and they don't know to mix the catalyst with the Flashpoint and or Lucas to give it lubricity and to make the N14 compatible with today's diesel fuel. But I've answered several questions online, liner protrusion and blown head gaskets and things. So they're active and they're out there.
Well, I mean, if it's something we want to look into, we can. So I just feel like it's starting to become a problem.
Yeah.
But that is all that I had this week.
All right. Hey, Bruce. You know
Yes.
the comment I read to you today?
Yeah.
So I replied to it. I actually said, and I reply to things like this, and I'm willing to help somebody if they want. I said, maybe you should start by not insulting your potential customers. That was all I said. And then I said, can you explain why someone would need your services? Because that's a good place too. She doesn't seem to understand she needs to sell to people. You can't sell to people by insulting them. That was what I was trying to point out. She actually replied. It says, I'm always going to call a steering wheel holder what they are. Why would I want to work with someone that can't think for themselves? Having standards is a good thing. Something tells me that's a foreign thing to you. So now she, I guess, is going to insult me while I was trying to help her. So you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Now, was my response that bad? It wasn't sarcastic. I didn't call her any names. I just made a recommendation. Maybe you should start by not insulting your potential customers. And then I gave her a chance to explain why somebody would need her services. Isn't that what sales is, Bruce? Don't you have to explain to somebody why they should give you money?
Compared to the rest of the population, owner-operators are way above the average intelligence of so many other people. And you see it everywhere in every other business. You ask people a question and they look at you like, why are you asking me that? I said, because you sell this product. Or, can you order this product? You deal with this company. Can you order this product?
Yeah.
I know. And so I think of how wonderful it is to deal with our owner operators because, yes, they can think. And, yes, they do things on their own. And compared to some of these employees that work at other places, it's just been frustrating these last couple of months for me. So.
Well, I agree. You know where this comes from, Bruce? If we look at the big picture of what's happening here, this is entitlement mentality. She believes that she's entitled to have good customers just because she's in business. Like she doesn't have to work for it. They should just show up. We have really created an entire country full of people that feel like they are entitled to success. You got to work for it.
Yeah.
Good customers don't just show up. Especially for a service like this. Like I said, this service wasn't even necessary for decades. I'm not sure why it's necessary. And it's really not necessary. People choose to use it, great. But if you can't sell it, don't blame the customers.
So I don't understand why a person would go to see this person if she's not a broker.
No.
And how is she tied in with the loads? And how does what percentage is she taking? And how is she getting paid?
She gets paid directly from the owner operator. The owner operator has to hire her and they come to an agreement. It's either a flat fee. I've seen a flat fee, so much a week. I've seen percentage of load. I've seen all kinds of things. To me, I just don't understand why this person is necessary. All they're doing is going to the same load board you could go to. Or maybe they've built some relationships with brokers, which helps a little. I doubt that this person has, just based on her attitude and the way she talks. But this is one of those things when I would see somebody online complaining that rates are too high and the brokers are ripping them off, and then I find out they're also paying a dispatch service.
And that's what that's called, a dispatch service.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. They have no freight. If they have freight, then they become an unlicensed broker. So they can't go find freight from a shipper. Now it happens, and it doesn't happen a lot because most of these dispatch services aren't good enough to go out and get direct freight anyway. But when they do, I've seen situations where they go find the freight, but then they don't take control of it. They just arrange for the two to get together. That's how they get away with not having broker license or authority. The whole industry, to me, that whole idea of a dispatch service is kind of goofy. Here's the other thing I tell people all the time. There are many, many good brokers out there that will act as your dispatch service and not charge you anything more than what they're already charging you on your loads. Let them dispatch you. Go get a couple of good brokers and they'll do the same thing. You don't need to pay somebody extra for this.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that whole industry should
Well,
disappear.
it's
But
really changed in
I'm
48 years ago when I was in traffic and transportation. We didn't even have a broker.
well, exactly. Right. Yeah.
So,
And like I said, we have all these owner operators and small carriers who are screaming about broker transparency. I need to know how much you're taking out of the load. And then they'll go pay a dispatch service that's completely unnecessary.
mhm. Okay.
All right. That's my rant for the day. And it looks like people want to talk to us. So we're going to get to some phone calls. Let's go to South Dakota. Shanna, welcome.
Oh, hey guys.
Morning.
Good morning. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Kevin, what do you, if anything, know about this beneficial ownership information with the
Oh.
Corporate Transparency Act?
Well, it's fairly simple. I believe the new deadline we all have till the end of January coming up. There's not much to fill out. You can do this form online. I hate this. I really, really hate this. I hope this kind of crap is one of the first things, the Trump administration gets rid of, and they might. Listen to this, though. Let me explain how. I'll just read this. The Beneficial Ownership Information Act. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Correct.
I want to
And,
make sure.
I
Yeah.
did find some information that
What?
on Tuesday, December 3rd, Texas federal court blocked the decision
That's what I'm hoping, that
nationwide.
this just goes away. And we have a really good chance of this going away, but I was planning on starting to keep an eye on it in January and letting everybody know so we don't miss deadlines, because they have some crazy penalties if you miss. It's one of those things where they charge you per day, I think, once you miss. But just listen to this. This is what has to stop. The Beneficial Ownership Information Act is part of the broader Corporate Transparency Act enacted in 2021 as part of the Anti-Money Laundering Act within the National Defense Authorization Act. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Is that satire? You got to be kidding me, right? This act is within 6 other acts. How does anybody keep any of this crap straight? And who spent, well, they spent all our money creating 6 different acts. Well, this kind of stuff just makes me insane. So I hope this is some of the stuff that DOGE just gets rid of.
I'm in 100% in agreement. But I believe that the deadline is actually January 1st.
Well, here's
But that Texas kicked it out.
well, here's what I'm
So-
reading. It says when to report existing companies, those created or registered before January 1st, 2024. So anybody who started a company this year I got to read something different. But anybody who was in business before January 1st of 2024 had until January 1st of 2025 to fill their initial report. New companies created or registered in 2024 had 90 days to file. So people who started businesses this year were supposed to file this year within 90 days. But everybody else has
Again, the
until
government just
January 1st
yeah,
of
government just
2025.
need to know all of this.
No, they don't. Well, you know what? They already know all of this. That's my other problem
Well,
with
I know we
this.
file our
The-
taxes.
And if we're incorporated, we have to file our corporate filings that says all of that. They already know this. We have an EIN number, and attached to that EIN number is all of this information already.
Exactly.
So it's
But
just,
the other thing I wanted to
yeah, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, the other thing I wanted to mention, Bruce, the Flashpoint has been flying off the shelves. I have a couple people. They're like, "Oh, I don't know, cetane blocks or messes with the injectors." I'm like, "That's the exact opposite." But it's been an amazing product that people are really noticing a big difference. Is what they come into my shop and say.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate hearing all the good reports.
Oh boy.
Well, that's all about I got.
All right, Jenna, thanks. I appreciate it. Hey, Bruce, it's getting interesting. So I responded back, and I didn't say anything other than explain to me why somebody would need your services. No insults. No, all I said was explain why. Here's a response. Keep it coming. This is going to make great content. I'm phenomenal at what I do. Why would I work with somebody who is subpar at best? Bruce, what are the odds that somebody like this succeeds in business?
I'm a little surprised.
Yeah. Well, obviously she's not, because her first post was complaining that she doesn't have any business. She can't find anybody to work for. But she's phenomenal at what she does. She told us.
You know, it's almost like a new owner operator. He might have drove a company truck for a little bit. Maybe he didn't even do it and went out and bought a truck.
Yep.
And they don't know a whole lot. And we always try to help them.
Of course.
Whenever I get those guys on the phone, a lot of times I'll call them every day and we'll talk about different things. And that'll go on for several weeks. It's just help each other. Let's all help each other and we get through this life easier.
That's exactly what I try to do. And even in this case, yes, I was heavily critical of the first post. And I am for a reason to get somebody's attention. Had she come back and been halfway reasonable or just answered the question, I'd be more than willing to help, because she needs help. I can promise you she's not going to make it at this. I've been doing this long enough to know she's not going to make it.
You ought to tell her who you are and get on the app. She can hear us talking about her.
Yeah, well, I keep thinking somebody might, because there's other people that are jumping in now and commenting on it. I keep thinking maybe somebody will get her on. And I'm serious about that. I would be more than willing to help her. Yes, I'll be really critical. I'll point out all the things she's doing that are going to lead to her failure, because that's what you got to figure out. But it looks like it's just going to turn into a typical, she's going to keep insulting and that kind of stuff. So I don't think we talked about this. Last couple of weeks have been weird. I had a case I talked about last week. I read it. So new owner operator, but the statements that he made, this was a write-up in Overdrive magazine, I think. The statements that this guy made, again, I've been doing this a long time. I can tell when people are going to fail, when they're going to succeed. I'm really good at predicting that. And this guy, he said, I quit my driving job on, I might get the dates wrong, on like November 12th. and I gave myself till the 25th to get a truck and be in business. Now and there were words in there like a hope and a prayer, and we think we can. That to me, you are going to fail. If this is how you start, you gave yourself 2 weeks to start a business, and you're using words like a wing and a prayer, and I hope I can do this, and we think, but here's what happened. They bought a truck cash, so they had some money. They obviously can manage their finances reasonably well. I don't run into too many people that can pay cash for their first truck, so that's a good thing. Somehow, well, not somehow, they just don't know what they don't know. They put a temporary 10-day insurance policy on this truck. There is no reason to do that. The second you sign the document, your insurance company will put a policy, a full-blown policy on that truck right then. And that's the way you should do it. You shouldn't take it off the lot until that policy is in place. I've bought a lot of trucks. You do it right there before you ever get in the truck. For whatever reason, they got a 10-day policy. I don't know if the policy lapsed or if it was only a liability policy. It may have been because they paid cash for the truck, but they parked the truck at a truck stop and it got stolen and they had no insurance. So now they were trying to do some GoFundMe campaign so people could donate to them and get them another truck. And somebody actually stepped up and donated another truck to them. I said, you're just prolonging the misery. They made a huge mistake already and paid for it. Maybe that should be an indication that you're not ready to get into business. So I actually said giving somebody like this a truck is not an act of charity. You're just making things worse for them. I said, look, and nobody ever responded to me. I don't know any of these people. It was just random post online. I offered a free CMC to get that, to help them. I'll donate things too, but I'm not donating money and I'm not donating trucks. That's cruel. We need to teach them how to be in business. But that people, 2 weeks. I'll give myself 2 weeks. Well, we see how that worked out.
Just like when a guy buys a truck for the first time and says, I'm gonna run it for a couple months and then I'll bring it in.
Right.
I said, no, we don't do it that way.
Yeah.
As soon as you get it, you change all the fluids, set the overhead. If it's got over 500,000 miles, you do the torsional damper. You should think about pulling a drive shaft out and taking it to a drive shaft shop. You need to look at the wheel bearings. You need to look at the brakes and the kingpins and tie rod ends and engine mounts and cab mounts. You need to go over a truck. It's $10,000 to $20,000 to prepare a truck to go on the highway. At least that's what it was a few years back. It may be more than that now. And then you put it on the road, and then you can truck several months trouble-free. But you just don't go and buy something off the lot and go haul freight.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Bruce,
Kevin, it goes back to when we were teenagers and in our early 20s. If you buy a used car, you just didn't buy it and drive it. You brought it home and you pulled the brake drums and you looked at the brakes and you checked out the front suspension and you changed the fluids. And I would always take the starter and alternator to an alternator shop and say, just go through it. That way that's taken care of. And
yeah, I agree. Well,
anyway.
I really mean it when I say I try to help people like this, and I would. So I responded to her because she said, keep it coming. This is going to make great content. I'm not sure what content she's talking about, but I replied, I said, it's already making great content. I'm live now talking about it. But then I said, you could join me. I'm trying to help you. And I gave her the show number. So we'll see what happens.
Oh my.
I'll help her.
Oh
Seriously.
my.
I'll,
You might have a fiery old lady calling you.
we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get to some phone calls. Let's go to Missouri. Richard, welcome.
Hey guys, the only reason why that lady can get steering wheel holders is because she's only catering to steering wheel holders, not real owner operators that get out here and do the real work.
Richard, how
But
as an owner operator who could potentially be one of her customers, how would you respond to a post like that?
I would probably respond the same way you did. But I would probably tell her the reason why you can't get any work is because you're degrading the true owner operators out here trying to do the real work.
Exactly. Well,
I work with Mercer. I work with Mercer Transportation for 2 years, and we can get loads. I was able to get loads on the load board myself without having to let them do the work for me.
Right.
And I managed to do that for 2 years without even having any problem. I never was a day without a load because I always had my load the day before. Sometimes I had my loads 2 days before.
So let's.
I did. She's just a dispatch service.
You just said something that made sense to me, and I think you hit it right on the head. Here's why she's having a hard time. You're right. She's not reaching the good owner operators who know how to run their business. In fact, the only person that replied to her original post, I was going to read this and then I just skipped it. There was a reply to her original post. You know what it said? It said, if I were able to be an owner operator, I would use your service.
That's probably her friend.
Yeah. So what you said, and here's why she's not reaching the good owner operators. They don't need her service or any service like it.
Exactly.
Right. That's the point I'm trying to get across to her is, first off, the people you think you want as customers may not want you as a service, and you better figure out how to sell this to them. And instead, you're insulting everybody in the industry, basically. I can't find any drivers. There's just a bunch of lousy steering wheel holders. What a horrible approach.
Yep. Well, the reason why I called is I called in a couple weeks ago about some black stuff in my filters when I changed my filters, and I was empty last night, so I went ahead and looked in my tank, and I took a stick and I tied a couple rags to the end of it and shined the flashlight in there. It looks like there's some black spots in there, big black spots, but then it looks like there's some streaks in it. You know how you get like on your tire, which what I'm doing right now, I got a hub seal gasket went out and I've got hub oil all over my tire. It's just streaked. If you know what that looks like, that's what the inside of my tank looks like. It looks like that the stuff has streaked and got on the bottom of my tank. It's not everywhere. The spots are spotty. There's different spots around in the tank, but then the streaks look like almost like leopard skin streaks in there. And I took that stick and tried to wipe it out, tried to scrape some of it off, and it didn't scrape off. It didn't rub completely off where I could see the tank, but I could rub some of the stuff off of it onto the rag. And when I pulled the rag out, the spot that I rubbed was still there. So it was kind of like smutty on the rag when I pulled the rag out to feel of it. I couldn't really get nothing on my fingers other than just it being smutty and everything. So I don't know if that's going to be the asphaltine or what would that be?
I think it's asphalt. Eric, what do you think?
That's 100% asphaltine 101 symptoms right there. At this point, you want to run your tank onto pretty much empty, and then drain out what's in there, and then take them out and have them professionally cleaned. Because you're never going to get rid of that stuff in the tank once it's already started to grow off the walls.
Okay, so the only way to get that out is just having it cleaned down.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I needed to know. I just wanted to call in and let y'all know about that.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Larry, welcome.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good. We looking at an oil sample?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
sir.
Oh boy. Sometimes what I'd like to do is just take a quick glance and see if I can figure out without looking around. Nickel went from 0
Right.
to 23. I have never
Yeah,
seen
that's
that happen. Um, nickel. Eric,
so
where would we get
the
nickel?
story on the truck. It's
Nickel,
a new truck.
nickel unfortunately is only two different sources in the engine. That's
Yeah.
going to be the crankshaft or the camshaft.
Uh-oh.
Really?
Do you have? It could be an alloy and a valve too, though. Come to think of it, but that's really the only three places it can be.
But we
Do
have
you have any fluctuation in oil pressure?
here's something. Eric, are you looking at this? I know sometimes you get the sample too.
I am.
Okay, so
Yep.
you see all the wear metals are looking pretty goofy,
Yes.
except lead.
Now it's
Yeah. Iron.
it's on catalyst, so the iron would be off.
Okay. Chromium would be your piston rings. Aluminum went down from 26 to 12. Tin went down from 4 to 2. Copper was really high the first time, 369. Now it's down
Right.
to 62, which is still flat.
There was no lead. Maybe
Um,
is this one of those engines that there's no lead on the cam or the crank
the bearings, correct.
or the
Yeah,
bear
there's no
right on
lead
the
in those,
bearings?
but Volvo.
Right.
This is a Volvo D13 engine.
Yes, this will be the third oil change. The first oil change I did not do a sample because break in. I figured it would be
Yeah.
the numbers would just be crazy. So this is the third oil change, but the second sample.
Eric, do you think that's just an engine that got built wrong?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's probably a bearing issue. It could be a defective bearing too, like bearing material could be coming apart and affecting the crank journal or the cam journal. It could even be a cam bearing too, for that matter.
Now they're
I would take it
actually
into a shop.
they're recommending looking for severe cylinder wear.
Right.
I don't see that because the chromium's only at 2. Unless something's like out of whack on the bottom end, it's putting side thrust, but that should show up on the aluminum, which I don't see that at all. I'm going to say it's more likely a cam or a crankshaft bearing failure, but it's starting to dig into either the cam or the crankshaft because your nickel jumped up so high so fast.
Right. This is an odd oil sample. Something really went wrong here.
Very.
Right.
And if your oil pressure's sustaining about the same, it may be a cam. But if your oil pressure's fluctuating, I would tend to look at the bottom end really closely.
Okay. Yeah. The oil pressure is where it has been.
Yeah, it might be up in the then around the camshaft. Maybe I can pull the valve cover off and do a visual.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I this to me is goofy enough. I don't think I would run this engine until I figured out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these numbers are just pretty severe for a new engine like this.
Right. Because, like you say, I mean, it went from nothing
to
spike like that on a new motor.
And it's such an odd thing. I mean, I can't remember the last time I talked about nickel as a problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's one that I hardly ever see. But like even on your last sample, which was your first one, you had pretty high aluminum, and copper was really high, 369, and then tin and silver.
I kind of figured the copper was just because it was new, with oil coolers and all that.
Had you called with only the first sample, that's what I would have said. I would have said that copper is just leaching out of the cooler. Don't worry about it. Now that we see, and the copper really went away. So that may not be any problem at all, but the rest of the wear metals are just odd.
Yeah.
Really odd.
And so when I saw that nickel, I was like, where is nickel? I mean,
yeah, well,
that had me.
Yeah, I had to stop and
Yeah.
think too, because we hardly ever see it.
Yeah.
And I'm really
Okay.
not sure why they're suspecting cylinder wear. I'm kind of with Eric. I don't really see a lot of cylinder wear going on here. But,
Right.
you know,
And the iron, you kind of throw the iron out the window. I mean, some people would say because of the iron, but they don't really know that it's on the catalyst. So I don't think that might be why.
I'll even say this though. So I used to have, prior to the catalyst, I used to have a rule of thumb on iron. And that rule of thumb was a formula that said let me try to even remember it. I haven't used it in a long time. Well, I'll just say it like this. If you had 50,000 miles on the oil itself, iron should be 50 or less. That was my general rule of thumb. It was about a, 10 points for 10,000 miles kind of formula thing. And once we started seeing the catalyst, and almost every oil sample I look at, people are running the catalyst, which is good. That formula doesn't hold up anymore. But
Right.
I'm looking at yours. Yours is double that formula. And normally the catalyst doesn't double that number. So it's a little hard when we're using catalyst. We kind of have to look at that iron differently. But I would even say your 82 is elevated based on the fact that you've only got 39,000 miles on this oil.
Right.
If you were at 50 or 60, I'd say, yeah, that's about right with the catalyst. At 82, I think there is excess wear going on too.
All right.
Yeah, I think we got to get this apart and look at it.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I guess at least got a direction to go because I mean, you think it'd be worth doing another sample to make sure nothing's wrong?
How did you change the oil after this last sample?
Yes.
And how many miles have you put on it since then?
About 10,000.
I think it's still too early. 15. So maybe have a sample ready and right around 15, maybe do it. See, sometimes when we do it too early, we can miss things. And 15 is, I think, at this point, I'm not worried about a couple thousand more miles. I'd rather get a good, accurate sample. And it can't hurt to take another sample. It may point out something that we're not going to see, but you're going to have to get in and look at this one. Now, the good news here is you were sampling from day one. Otherwise, I have a feeling, had you not been sampling in a couple of months, you would have been dealing with a horrendous warranty issue. Maybe we caught it early enough that we can correct it.
Yeah,
So,
if they'll do anything about it under warranty by looking at a sample.
Yeah, we'll see.
Have you gone back to the dealer and told them that there may be a potential problem?
No, I just got this report today, and I saw that nickel, and I was like, that just doesn't look right. And where could it possibly come from?
I would stop by and I would talk to the service manager, and if it's a small dealership, if you can talk to the owner and just show them and say, I'm not panicking, and we're not pointing any fingers, but we think there may be a problem. What would you like me to do?
Yeah, that's
okay.
a good idea. And there's nothing
nice to have
as
them
far as
it'd be nice to have them put their signature on that oil analysis, but they probably won't do that.
Right.
So
there's nothing as far as like cleaning products and things like that the oil change person could have contaminated a nickel.
No,
Not
nickel
that,
is a
no.
hardened metal.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because nickel is like chrome, the hard metal. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's good to know.
Yeah, give it a couple more 1,000 miles, do a sample, but I would get it in and get it looked at internally.
Yep. All right. Appreciate that, you guys.
All right. Call us, let us know how this is going. Let's go to Florida. James, welcome.
Hey guys,
What can we help you with today?
this is James out of Mississippi. I called you guys last week with a 2019 Freightliner with a DD15 that fan had kicked on. I don't know if you remember the phone call or not.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the fan to kick back off. Well, Friday I pulled into a fuel island down here in Miami, and it was asking for a parked regen. So I went ahead and paid for a parking spot and pulled over there and tried to do the regen. And it would start the regen, but it would never finish the regen. And I called our breakdown service, and they told me just put it on the regen and see what it does. So I dozed off, and when I woke up about 14 hours from the time the regen first started till I woke up, it was still trying to regen. So I called a service company, and they come out, put a laptop on it, going to try to do a forced regen, and it wouldn't regen for them either. So I got towed in to a shop yesterday, and I got a feeling that they're just throwing parts at this thing. I was going to see what ideas you guys might have.
Have they said what they've replaced, or did you have any check engine lights, or?
Yeah, the check engine light and the amber engine light, it doesn't say check, it's just the engine light. Both of those were on, and then when it started asking for the parked regen and wouldn't complete, then the engine protection light came on and was giving me 2 minutes, between shutdowns. And like I said, I got it to the shop, and they put it on their laptops. The first guys that come out charged me $1,600 for about 30 minutes of their time. That was heartbreaking. But here, their computer said it needed a new dozer, a 7th fuel injector, a new DEF pump, which I just put on a new one on at 600,000. I've got 724,000 on it right now. And which the U joint fell apart when they told the drive shaft. That has nothing to do with that. But yeah, they had $5,100 worth yesterday, and they're still working on it.
Let me ask you a question. You said somebody came out to look at your truck. They were there for 30 minutes and charged you $1,600.
Yes, sir. The two techs that come out, I call them Laurel and Hardy. They were more of a comedy duo than they were technicians.
Oh boy.
And they told their boss that they had this truck up and moving, because when my breakdown guy called and told me what the invoice was, I told him there's no way that was right. Something was wrong. So we called the owner of the company that sent the guys out, and he gave me a list of what they said they done, and he asked me what state I was in now, and I told him same damn parking spot I was in when they came out, because my truck wouldn't move. They didn't do nothing to it. And he said that they done a bunch of stuff that they didn't do, and he readjusted it down to $998 and some change, and that's what I ended up having to pay, was the $998, which I thought was highway robbery.
So how far did these people have to travel?
They were, from the time my breakdown guy said he had someone coming, they were there in 30 minutes.
So let's say they drove 30 miles out, 30 miles back. I just had a company charge me to come look at a generator on a boat, $3.75 a mile plus $214 an hour. And I was a little upset with that. And sounds like they're they're really charging you a lot hourly or miles wise. You want to share with us
They
the name of the
charge.
company so other people don't use them?
I honestly can't remember the name of the company. I remember the look of the truck, and if that truck ever pulls back up to service my truck, I'm running them off with a damn broom or a bat. I can't remember, but my company did blacklist them over the deal anyway, that we will not be using them anymore. And say I just paid my truck off in June. I actually completed a lease purchase program, and I was really proud that that went without any issues.
Yeah.
And now this is happening. But I kept telling them yesterday, they don't speak a lot of English down here in Miami, which is a really crippling thing for me because I can't talk to these techs.
That's
I
tough.
kept telling them that as long as that engine light was on, that this truck would not regen, because the Freightliner has that protection deal that if the check engine light's on, it will not complete a regen.
I'll comment on that because some people take a comment like that incorrectly. I'm all for lots and lots of legal immigration. We need more people in our country and we need to vet them. So I am not, this is not against anybody coming into our country. But when I did tax returns and I would get calls from people who did not speak English well, I would not take them as a customer. That's not something you can communicate when there's a language barrier. It's hard enough for me to explain taxes to somebody who speaks English and has spoken it their whole life. You throw in a language barrier, and I just wouldn't do it. And it wasn't because I didn't want to work with somebody of another race. I do that all the time. I have no issue with that at all. But if I can't communicate with somebody on something that technical, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and like I said, it's nothing against the guys; they're working their ass off.
Right.
But I kept mentioning, that the clutch fan was still engaged. Well, about 7 o'clock last night, they went to pecking around on the fan and bleeding air down, and they actually changed a solenoid or something. And as soon as they did, it blew that solenoid, so they pulled one off of a truck they had here on the yard and put it on my truck. And that actually, I think the way I understood him, that got the fan unengaged where you could spin it. And then he showed me that the check engine light was on because of the engine brake. It has 3 positions. And in the first position, he was saying that either the solenoid to that or maybe the wiring harness to that was what was causing the check engine light to be on. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I couldn't find nothing about that online at all, but I don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, like I said, I'm $5,100 in now, and there's no telling what all this extra crap's costing me. And
how many miles are on this truck?
724.
Leroy, do you think it needs a 1 box?
It's just hard to say. I mean, there are so many things that can keep it from regenning, or so many things that kick the check engine light on. I mean, the engine brake is one of them. If it's like a wiring issue, like if it was here and I'm just trying to get it to do a regen like on the side of the road, like not in the shop, like if I was on the side of the road, I'll be like, I'll temporarily disable the engine brakes. I have a laptop, so I'll just be like, tell the engine, you don't have engine brakes anymore, and I'll do the regen. You can do stuff like that if you just need to get yourself off the side of the road. But I'm not going to speak to what they all have going on because I'm not there and I'm not looking at it. But there's just a lot of things that could be.
They've got the top of the they've got the air box off of it now. The top of the valve cover, I would call it on a very regular vehicle, they've got it off. I seen a big pan with all my damn coolant drained out sitting underneath the front of the truck. I'm just about to throw up thinking about all of it.
Have you had regen issues, or this is the first sort of issue that you've come across?
No, I bought this truck with 169,000 miles on it. I heard about the max mileage around 250,000, and it's had max mileage every tank since 250,000 miles. So about 500,000 miles I've been running max mileage. And they said that the one box was good because the guys that come out, Laurel and Hardy that come out Saturday, they told me that the one box was shot, closed their laptop and left. These guys said that the one box was good, but you know, they did have a 7th injector issue and the dozer, and that the def pump was showing weak on the computer. And like I told them, I just put that on about 120,000 miles, a brand new one. I didn't think it was bad.
Is there any way you can get this truck put back together and just head to Pittsburgh, bring it up to our shop?
I wished I could. It won't. I have to hit the damn override button every 2 minutes, you know, to keep it from shutting down.
Oh, wow.
If there was any way possible, I mean, I'm from North Mississippi, and here I am broke down in Miami, Florida. It's a terrible situation. I'm just at the mercy of the shop, and I don't, you know, I would love to have it at you guys' shop because y'all have already said things that these folks ain't even thought about doing, telling it don't have engine brakes and making it do a regen, but
yeah.
I don't
Remember, nobody thinks like we do. We think totally outside the bun. So
yeah, I knew y'all would be someone I could call and maybe get some direction. I don't know. They get it back together and try a regen again. I'll try to find someone that speaks enough English I can explain to them to try to disengage the engine brakes completely and see if it'll do it then.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all the truck's asking for.
If that's the only reason why it's not, if it's preventing you from doing your regen, that's a trick you might be able to do. But yeah, it's a real shame because I mean the def pump really has nothing to do with the regen cycle. That's kind of a whole system in itself. So you never really needed a def pump.
They're just throwing parts.
Yeah.
They're just throwing parts at it. Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, I knew you guys would know as much as anybody about what I might could do to get it to do the regen, because that's all it was asking for was a regen. It wasn't throwing no other codes or anything. It just was showing a code for a part regen.
Paul Carmine just sent a message to you through me. He said you could have loaded it on an RGN trailer for $3,600 and been at our place.
Yeah.
That doesn't
no
get
doubt.
your trailer, but anyway.
Yeah. A buddy of mine offered to come get it, but it was going to be $3,500 for him to come down here and get it, you know, to get it back home. But I thought these guys could get me up and going. They talked like it wouldn't be no problem, but then they've had all kind of fits with it.
Are you at Freightliner?
No, Freightliner couldn't get to me till Wednesday, so I got pulled to the tow service that came out to get me. They're supposed to be really good. Our company uses them all the time down in this area. We have a terminal down in this area, and they do a lot of our work. And the breakdown guys said they were usually pretty good about getting things going at a reasonable price. But when I seen they was just throwing parts at it, I kind of got a sinking feeling.
Tough situation.
If they keep on, if they keep on, I mean, I've only got like 10 grand on me for maintenance. I try to keep cash on me in case something happens like this. And if they keep adding shit up here, I'm gonna end up. I don't know how I'm gonna get them paid.
That's a tough one.
I mean, I've got my personal checking account, but I try to keep it, you know, for bills at home.
Right.
Well, fellas, I appreciate your time. I really do. I don't know. I know you can't wave no magic wand from where you're at, but I sure wish I'd have broke down more in you guys' area.
Leroy, if we had a remote tuner go there and plug into his truck, would that help?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that we can do with a laptop over remote tuning than we can just over the phone. Also, I don't know. It usually sours the relationship with the shop pretty quick, though. So,
I know,
Well,
but
when I can't
but
pay these guys, it's going to sour it pretty damn bad here in a little bit.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So, I
true.
mean, if
the
you just
other
want to have them
situation is
together.
when you're in a jam and you need help, whether you're a mechanic working on something, you should welcome anybody's help or suggestion, because the main thing is to get this man's truck fixed and get him back on a highway. Forget about your pride. It's okay to say, I don't know, because not everybody can know on these things. These are complicated pieces of equipment, but they should always welcome outside help.
At what point should I call this? I mean, if they don't get it fixed by today, you think I should just call it and work on another plan, or would you keep throwing down money at it?
That's a tough one, but at some point you gotta. Well, here's the way I kind of look at this. It's hard to cut and run because of the cost, and they've already invested in it. You hope they figure it out here quickly, but I would say the critical point is when you feel like you're about to run out of money. You got to try something at that point before it gets too late. So you just got to kind of look at and look, we're in business. There are times I took money out of my retirement accounts to keep the business going. There are some times you got to do that. If you want to stay in business, sometimes that's what it takes. You borrow money, you take money out of retirement accounts.
I don't plan on quitting.
Right. So I would say at that point where you say, look, I can't afford to leave it here and you're not making any progress and I'm about to run out of money, is when you got to look at plan B.
So we have a remote tune dealer in Fort Myers and we have one in Gainesville. So Gainesville's too far away. You're in Miami. I wonder if Clifford Young from Fort Myers would drive down to your place, or if he would let me borrow his laptop and I came over.
You have a number where I can reach you, Bruce, that you wouldn't care to give out?
No, just call the office and it transfers right to me.
What's that number, sir?
724-360. 360-4080.
Okay,
and I needed to come over. I have a meeting this week in Fort Lauderdale, but I haven't scheduled a time or a date yet. I'm going to call.
I've got 724-360-4080. Is that correct?
That's correct. Kathy will answer the phone.
For Bruce.
And she'll either send, if I'm not available, we're working on the company phone. She'll send me a text message with your name and phone number, and I'll call you right back.
All right. I appreciate it, man. I really do.
We've spent thousands of dollars on a new phone system, yet there's bugs in it, and they're trying to make it work on this remote phone.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
In today's high-tech world, I should be able to plug this phone in wherever I am. And but anyway, we all have problems we have to fight.
We have our challenges, that's for sure.
That's right.
All right, James. We'll see.
I appreciate it, guys.
We'll see if we can get this done. All right. Let's go to New York. Harold, welcome.
Gentlemen, just want a couple comments. There are road service companies similar to that dispatch service you're talking about that have a list of shops, and they'll charge you about $1,000 for their part, and then they'll get a shop to go over there and do it. So it's similar to those people that want to do dispatch services,
Right.
which is terrible.
Yeah.
But a couple comments. I've been reading Bruce's stuff since probably before I started listening to you, Kevin, in '07, and I feel like I've known you guys all my life and appreciate all the good info. But I got a question for you. I put a Wabasco heater on this car carrier that I bought in 2000, and so I can turn it on and it'll heat the engine coolant up, which heats the block up to about 140 degrees. I've heard Bruce talk about building fires under trucks to get them warm in the real cold, but I just thought it sounded like a good idea to me. I mean, I'm up here in New York now, so I've been doing it every morning. What do you guys think about that?
You're putting the Wabasco on to heat the oil pan?
Yes, it heats the coolant up, Bruce. And it'll get the coolant to about 140, and it'll get the oil in the block at about 120.
I think it's a phenomenal idea.
I thought it was too, and I thought, at this point, it's probably my last truck. I mean, I'm the same vintage as you are, Bruce. So I'd like to order a new one with that new Cummins in there, but it's probably not feasible at this point.
No, heating the block, heating the coolant, heating the oil, that's all a great idea. Years ago, the U.S. Army called me and they wanted pre-oilers. And it was basically an oil pump on the back of a starter, and you would just crank it until you had oil pressure, and then you let the engine start. There were several companies that made them, but it didn't go anywhere. And in fact, we even had one installed on a client's truck for free, and he turned out he didn't like it. But
really, what's not to like?
Yeah, well, I feel the U.S. Army said that 95% of the wear comes from startup. So the warmer you can get your engine, the warmer you can keep your engine in the wintertime during the night or whenever you're not running the engine, the better. So the Wabasco heater, the way you have it plumbed, is doing a great job.
Yeah, good. Well, I just wanted to confirm my decision. And one more comment to Leroy. I hate that white chocolate too. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah. I used to work at a gas station when I was a kid, and no one would ever eat the Zero bars, and they got so hard we just started throwing them out in the road, watching cars run over them, and they didn't even make a dent. The things were disgusting.
They are disgusting. My wife likes them, and my kids like it, but I can't stand it. I don't know. Of course, I don't like cilantro either, so that could be one of those things that goes along with the cardio miracle. I don't know.
No, Harold.
No, I like cilantro, but I don't care for white chocolate. I like the dark chocolate.
Well, things like white chocolate, dark chocolate, liking those is just a preference kind of thing. But the cilantro is interesting. There's a gene. We can identify people who won't like cilantro by a gene. There is a gene. If that gene is activated, cilantro tends to taste like soap. Most people say, but that's a genetic thing.
Mine's
I don't know if it tastes like soap to me, but it just doesn't taste good at all.
Yeah, that's genetic actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm genetically impaired, I guess, because
right.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. So
not everybody has to like everything.
It's kind of funny though. We like cilantro around here, and we cook a lot, Bruce. You know that we do like cilantro.
Yeah.
We used to joke that if before we hired somebody, we had to ask the cilantro question.
So, well, Kevin,
I would fail.
At one time, I'm just going to tell the listening audience, one time when I was out there and you were interested in buying a restaurant, and I was really against it.
You were right. We didn't do it.
I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose your help on the air like this. So I was being selfish for myself, my company, and the fellow owner-operators that listen.
Thank you for that.
Restaurants take over people.
Oh, they absolutely do. And I would more than likely I would lose all the joy in cooking, and then it becomes a business. And so we've talked about it. We passed on that. We decided if we ever did anything, we would build a food truck. And it would just be something we could use whenever we wanted to use. It wouldn't be a full-time business. We would use it for events or special, stuff like that. We may still do something like that, but not something that would even be close to full-time. We just build something that we have lots of events here in the Gorge. Summers are great for, we do big parties out at the farm now, so we could use it out there. So we may build something like that.
Be careful, because the demand will grow and people will be calling and calling, and you'll hate to turn them down. We had the LA taco truck would come to our place every Thursday, and then the 350 Chevy failed, and they had a company put a Jasper engine in, and it failed, and the husband got involved in politics, and we no longer have that truck, and their food was phenomenal, and they had quite the following on Facebook. I would drive by places they were in the evening, and the line would be 30 feet deep. So when it's good, it won't be just part-time, Kevin. It'll be overwhelming.
Maybe that's why we haven't.
You don't have enough years left for that kind of stuff.
40 isn't enough?
But you got a lot going on now.
I know we do. You're right. Well, that's probably why we haven't done it.
I know why you, and I know after listening to the RFK, or did I get it right? Yeah, RFK, and what's coming out about these food people, and you saw that several years ago, and that's why you bought this farmette, so you can grow and raise your own food.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, we were talking about seed oils 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody just now catching up with you.
Yeah, well, and it's not like I can take credit for it. There's a whole bunch of people out there that I learned from. So this movement's been around a long time. Now it's just starting to catch on mainstream, which I never saw coming. No way would I have ever predicted this.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Shockingly good for a change.
Right. Yep.
But you brought it to people's attentions. And there's a lot of people that listen to this show that do not own trucks. And so it could have started right here.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Hope we had a part
just like driving indirect started right here.
That's right. That's right. All right, Harold, we're going to move along. I've got some calls to get to. We're going to go to Indiana. Oh, let me try that again. Ray, welcome to the program. Ray, are you there? Huh. You know what? I'm going to put that call back in the queue. Let's see, Angie, if you could check on that, check on Ray. Let's go to Tennessee. Chris, welcome.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to make a quick commercial for Pittsburgh Power and talk about what good guys they are. I had ordered a ECM for my N14 Select Plus, and I just got it for a spare, because talking to the guy that you guys were talking to in Miami, now when you get out, you break down on the road, you guys know you're screwed. And this old Cummins I've got's got the original ECM on it. I've talked to you guys before. It's 96 379 Peterbilt with CPL 2025, the N14 Select.
Oh boy!
So I just wanted,
that was the best one too.
Yeah, I remember talking to you, Bruce. So I wanted an extra ECM just to have with me in case this had any problem. So I ordered an ECM from you guys, and I dealt with Sean in the parts department. He was super great. Well, I got it, and I told him, I said, I'm not going to return a core. I'll just pay the extra core charge, because I'm one of these people that's, paranoid about something going out when it gets real old. So I put it on. It ran 12 miles and went out. So I returned it, and Sean was right on the ball, sent me another one back. Well, the one that he sent back wouldn't even start the truck. So I told him, that I just didn't have a lot of confidence in him, and he agreed to refund my money and said when they got a better supplier that, I want to get another one from you guys, but I just want to, there's not very few places that are going to give you a refund on parts like that, and you guys done that, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, Bruce.
Well, we appreciate you coming on air and saying that, and that's how we are. Greed was killing the world, and hopefully the greed's going to come to an end now. But there's no reason to be greedy. Just like this fellow broke down in Miami, the company that first came out, they were greedy people, and there's no reason to be that way.
Hey, Bruce, and
you guys know when you break down out on the road now, it's hard to find reliable, trustworthy, knowledgeable people to help you,
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard.
Well, I'll tell you another one.
Show.
Get in a boat and break down out in the ocean or in the Chesapeake Bay and try to get help like that too. I mean, it's they need so many mechanics in the Chesapeake Bay. People say, "Why don't you start your shop down here?" I said, if I was 25 years younger, I would have a division here in this Chesapeake Bay, but it's all up and down the East Coast.
I don't know.
I'm out here in Florida. I can't even get people sometimes to order a part, and I'm willing to pay in advance. I mean, everything gets frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's crazy to try to get parts or anything now, but you guys are great to deal with. I've ordered other parts from you guys. Everything's always been like it's supposed to be. But, for Sean to agree to refund me my money, which it was quite a sum of money, including the core charge. But, if you find a reliable supplier of ECMs, I still want to get one from you guys, but I don't. He said that, Sean said that you guys had a lot of trouble with the ECMs lately I don't know where you're getting them, but hopefully, in the future, I can get another one from you.
Did you listen to the beginning of the show when Leroy was talking about the N14 ECM?
No, sir, I didn't. I was out picking up a load at a place, and I missed the first of the show.
That's what we opened the show with.
That was Leroy's opening, talking about the problems with the N14 ECMs.
Yeah.
We talked for about 15 minutes about that now. And there it is.
Oh, man, I wished I'd have caught that.
Well, it's recorded.
Yeah, I'll go back and listen to that. Do you think you'll be getting a different supplier of those, or do you have any future plans on that? Or
Leroy?
Well, I still think we're coming up with a plan. I mean, we're just sort of exploring options. I know Eric and Bill talked about it yesterday for a while, and Sean, about kind of like, well, should we go this route or this one? We just got to feel out what the best option is and then just sort of go with that.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. I mean, we're working on a plan, but we haven't come up with the plan yet. But we're not giving up.
I like JR's plan.
No. Well, Sean thought he could get a remand from Cummins, but he called me back and said that Cummins did not have a ECM for a CPL 2025. They have one for another CPL, but not mine.
Well, if they have one, Leroy, do they have them for 2392 or 2592 and 2391 CPL?
Well, it's not necessarily for CPL. It's ECM hardware version. So if it has to match the hardware version, because each version, there's like I'm pretty sure there's 3 different types of hardware versions of N14 ECM. And each one of them do probably a couple of CPLs each. So depending on which one he has, it depends on the hardware version. So that's probably what Sean's talking about.
Okay, yeah, he said the ones that Cummins had wouldn't work with my engine, and I think he said that even if they did have one, you have to purchase the ECM and a new. I believe he said I had to have a new harness and everything. I'm not for sure on that. I can't remember exactly how he explained that to me, but
Oh, was he talking about like the upfit kit to like a new style ECM?
you know, I'm not for sure. I just know he said that the way I understood, you had to, if you got one directly from Cummins, a reman from Cummins, you had to also buy the wiring harness. So I don't know if it's a different, you know.
All right. What about this? Do you have a garage or a shed at home you could put a spare engine in?
No, sir, I don't. Well, yeah, I actually do. Yeah, I've got a barn I could put one in.
How about if you go to a salvage yard and just search and look for any Select Plus and make sure it's got an ECM and see what they want for the engine.
Yeah,
maybe you could
find
an old Columbia that has an N14 in it, a Columbia or a Century, buy the truck for $3,000-$4,000 and take the engine and whatever else you want for it, and then scrap it and get an ECM that way. But let's hope that it's good. Maybe if you could get the ECM and send it to Leroy first, if they would let you do that, so we could verify that it's good. That way you get a spare ECM.
Well, now, you know, the two I got came directly from you guys.
Right, but are they aftermarket, Leroy, those ECMs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're outsourced from another supplier, but, you know, I got them through Sean.
If all my contacts weren't retired and passed away from Cummins, I'd have them start making them again. But the new people running the regime, I don't really know any of them.
Yeah, you know, my ECM, it's fine now, but I'm just, you know, I would love to have one to keep with me because, you know, you get out somewhere like this poor guy in Florida, ECM goes out, can't get one. You know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars later, downtime. I mean, it's crazy.
Do you carry a spare alternator by any chance?
Yes, sir, I do. Got one in my toolbox, a brand new one in the box.
I wondered that. Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got extra hoses, clamps, sensors, alternator, everything I can think of. I've got another question, if you got a minute. My cam positioning sensor, this thing started acting up on me the other day, and my mechanic, I got it home, it was having trouble starting, you know. Well, he took the cam positioning sensor out, and the end of the cam positioning sensor had rubbed against the internal gear. What would cause that?
Well, either it was installed improperly, like it was installed too deep, or something has moved. That's kind of the only two things that it can be.
Well, that's what I thought, and me being the... I'm sorry?
I said it's a little concerning if something has moved.
Yeah, he put another one in, and I've run it probably about 8,000 miles, no other problems. We run it for a while. I took it out and test drove it. He pulled it back out. Nothing was touching. So what I'm thinking, maybe the other one, and the end of the cam position sensor he put in was made a little bit different than the one in it. So I'm wondering if maybe, I'm hoping that's all that was.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, the only thing that could make that internal gear on the end of the cam move would be what is it, a thrust bearing that's in the back of where the cam goes in? Would that be the only thing that could cause the wear enough to move?
Thrust bearings in the front.
Okay.
All right, so here's how you can tell if the. Wait a second, no, I'm thinking of accessory drive. Take and put, is it 1 inch and 7/16 socket on the accessory drive, and rock the engine back and forth, and see if you hear clunk, clunk, because if your wear bushing is not bushing, but thrust washer is gone, it'll go clunk, clunk when you go from forward to backwards. And that's telling you're only supposed to have 8 to 12 thousandths in play and not a 1/16 of an inch.
Okay.
By the way, when you're setting the overhead on an N14 or a big cam, that's the first thing you look at. It's whenever you start to turn the engine over, you look to make sure that the thrust washers are still good by rocking the engine.
Oh. Yeah, this engine, I bought the truck, and the guy had the engine rebuilt. He took the block out and had it sent to a machine shop, and he gave me all the paperwork on that. Of course, paperwork's only as good as what they give you. But I believe the guy. He seemed like an honest fellow. But and this engine's a great engine, so I'm hoping it was just a defective cam position sensor and nothing more serious.
You could always take a set of verniers. You could take a set of verniers. Leroy, is that where that sensor is? Is there room to get in and work and take a set of verniers and extend it out and see how deep you have to go into before you touch the cam, and then mic the existing sensor and see how close it actually is when it's screwed in?
I mean, there's not a ton of room. It's probably doable. You probably have to move some wiring harnesses and things like that out of your way, but that might be doable.
Yeah.
Well, my mechanic, when I first got this truck, I changed a lot of the sensors on it just because they look real old to me, out of my paranoia. I put in a new cam position sensor myself, and I didn't think I tightened it that tight, but now my mechanic said it was extremely tight. Of course, it had been in there for a long time, so, hopefully everything will be fine. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah,
for the
I
call.
think the test you did with driving it and seeing if it wears back on it is a good test. So.
Yeah, it was fine after I drove it and he pulled it back out. And like I said, and I've learned another lesson. I had ordered a cam position sensor off of eBay. It was a lot cheaper, and it did come in a Cummins box, but, who knows? You don't know what you're getting from these places. It could have been an off-brand or whatever. And my mechanic said it was made, the end of it, the very end that goes into the, into the engine, the tip of it was made different. So hopefully I'm hoping that's all that was.
That's a very big thing right now going on with counterfeiting at eBay. I know on my old 7.3 Power Stroke, I was going to buy a sensor for the high pressure oil pump. Ford wants $612 for the sensor, and I looked on Amazon and eBay just fast, and they're selling them for like $89 in a Ford box with a Ford part number. And I did some more research online. I found out that's a huge black market right now, that these printing companies over in China are buying these sensors, making their own boxes, their own bags, labels, whatever, and then selling them on eBay as OEM parts. So yeah, anytime
you got to be kidding.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. And there's been a bunch of guys that got burned on this stuff too. So when you're buying stuff like sensors and everything like that, it pays to pay the extra money up front. Just go to OEM, call us, we're a Cummins dealer, call your Detroit dealer, call Cat, whoever, but buy genuine OEM parts when it comes to the sensors.
Hey, from now on, I'll be getting my sensor from you guys. Well, all my parts from you guys from now on. But and can you still get original Cummins rebuild kits for these N14s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any problem with the rebuild kits. I mean, I know we had some issues. They were a little bit back ordered on water pumps, but I know I'm pretty sure they're all caught up on them. I don't have a problem getting the rebuild kits for those. It's just some of the little smaller knick-knack pieces here and there. Might have to wait a couple days, but it shouldn't be anything that's out for more than a week right now. They're pretty much caught up on all the N14 stuff.
I know my mechanic,
how many miles are on since the last rebuild?
oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I think it's got around 120,000 on it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have my book right in front of me. But it's a great engine. It, uses a gallon of oil about every 7,000 miles,
Do you have the OPS on it?
No, sir, I don't.
That might cut down on your oil consumption.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I know my mechanic, he's rebuilding a 3406B Cat now, and he told me the other day that he could not get an original Cat in-frame kit for that B model Cat anymore. They told him it would be at least 3 to 4 months. So that's the reason I was asking about the Cummins.
Well, the Cat B models, to my knowledge, you never could get like a platinum rebuild kit, because the last one we did in house, and this has been a couple of years ago now, we had to buy everything individual. They didn't make any kits for them, and I know it's a little more money that way too. So maybe that's what they're talking about. Maybe they make their own in-house kits, like at the dealership. Maybe they'll order in like pistons and liners and whatever it may be, but probably it's been quite a few years now, but I know they didn't even offer them back then the last time we did an in-frame on a B model.
Well, I bet that's what he was referring to. Yeah, I've also got a 3406E Cat, a 2WS, and you still get the Cat in-frame kits for them?
Yes.
Mike?
Okay, good deal. Hopefully I won't need one, but these parts and everything. Now this motor here, this N14 I've got, it was rebuilt with PAI stuff. So, it is what it is, but I'd rather had original Cummins, but the previous owner's the one that built the engine, and he said that's all he could get at the time. It was back during COVID, so I don't know.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, now that you said that, I'm going to change my thinking. I think you should get with Sean and order cylinder kits, rod and main bearings, and just keep them at home. Keep them where it's dry and not damp. And you might not need them for 6 years. You might need them in 2. But the fact that you are burning a gallon of oil in 6,000 miles, which isn't bad, however, and then it has off-brand parts in it, I would just buy the parts as money allowed and just have them. Like money in the bank.
That would probably, because I'm sure, like you say, going in the future, they may be harder to come by, and I'm sure will be more expensive also.
When I was living at home and building race cars, I used to buy parts all summer long because I knew in the fall we were going to be building a new engine, and I would put them under my bed. And these were single beds, right? 4 feet wide. And my, mother had the dust under the beds, and there would be manifolds and carburetors and pistons and bearings and camshafts and lifters. And she said, "Can't you find another place to keep those parts?" I said, "Mother, they're paid for. I love sleeping on them. I love knowing they're there and they're not going to disappear, and they're dry and they're warm." So. Yeah,
that's probably a good idea. I can't do it right now. I tell you, it's December. It's been a slow month for me.
Cylinder kit, remember, a cylinder kit has to be stacked vertical. You cannot lay cylinder kits on their side. So you couldn't put a cylinder kit under a bed unless you got a tall bed. But you have to have them upright, or it'll distort the liner. Okay?
Okay. All right. That's good information. And I just
Like I
want to
said, you
thank
don't
you,
have to
Bruce,
buy them
for
all at once. Buy a set of rod bearings, buy a set of main bearings, buy a set of cylinder kits, buy the head gasket set, buy the pan gasket, and don't do it all at once. Just order it as you go.
do they still make a stabilizer for the N14? I know I had another truck years ago that had an N14 in it, and I bought a stabilizer bar that went behind the oil pan on the rear to help stabilize the block to keep the oil pan from leaking. Do they still make those?
I never heard of it.
Yeah, I had
Eric,
one in
ask Brian if he knows about it.
Okay. Yeah, I've never personally heard about it either. This attaches from the frame to the oil pan?
No.
No, sir. It attaches to you put your oil pan up there, and then you put this brace under your oil pan, and it wrapped around the back of the oil pan and come up toward the front of the engine, not very far, probably 5 or 6 inches, and you bolted it up with your oil pan, and it helps stabilize the back of the block.
So like a stiffener plate.
Yeah, something like that. But it actually bolted up with your oil pan bolts.
I never knew we had an issue with that. But let's see if Brian knows anything about it.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long. It was back in the 90s. I bought one to put on an old truck Peterbilt I had. I had oil pan gasket trouble. It leaked pretty bad. And this one here, it also leaks in the rear also. So, but I don't know. They probably don't even make those anymore. I didn't know if that was something you guys had in stock or not.
Interesting.
Well, I'll get off here and let some other calls get in, and man, my heart goes out to the guy in Florida. I hope he can find some help down there and get back home safe. And just want to wish all you guys at Pittsburgh Power, Kevin, all you guys, happy holidays and take care.
Thank you.
No, it's Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, good talking to you. Couple things real quick, then we're going to get back to some phone calls. Bruce, imagine this in your finance, in your personal finances. Imagine if 28 cents of every dollar you earned had to go towards paying debt. And that's just interest. That's just interest on the debt. That's not paying any of the debt back. Could you imagine what your life would be like if 28 cents of every dollar went to pay off interest and you weren't even paying down debt? The reason I say that is because that's where our country is right now.
Wow.
We pay 28 cents out of every tax dollar. Every dollar of revenue the government gets, that's all our money. 28 cents of it goes just to pay the interest on the debt we owe. Not to pay off the debt, just the interest.
And we continue to give money away.
Yep, that is insane. Now, here's something else. We just talked about the fact that Leroy opened with the N14 ECM, which is kind of an odd topic, and then we get a call about it. I'm wondering if we were psycho today or psychic. Which one is it? Because listen to this. Shauna called earlier today to tell us or to ask about that goofy new requirement we have to file with the government, and I went through it and explained it. I just read this. This just happened. U.S. District Judge Amos Mazant blocked the U.S. Treasury from enforcing the Corporate Transparency Act, putting a hold on deadlines requiring small businesses to file the beneficial ownership. A judge just stopped it for now. It could start up again tomorrow for all I know, but a judge has put a hold on that. That's good.
They need to put a hold on a lot of stuff.
I know. Glad to see
and
they're
they need to get rid of those couple people in New York City that keeps bringing people to trial too.
Oh yeah, no doubt. All right,
We need to make lots of changes.
Let's grab a call. Let's go to New Jersey. Danny, welcome. Danny, are you there?
Yeah,
there
I didn't hear the beep, but I didn't hear you.
Ah, there you are. Go ahead.
All right. Couple things here. That driver that called in down in Miami, what year was that? Was that Cascadia? Do you remember?
2019.
I had my 11 had the same issue as far as the regen. Going down the road, it'd want to do a regen, and it would derate and shut off. You hit the override button, and yeah, every 2 minutes. I took, you got to get some Gorilla Tape or something good and just tape that switch down. And I drove a couple 100 miles with it. Didn't have any issues. My issue with mine was there was a wire harness. And I don't remember, it was part of the DPF filter. And of course, this was Freightliner. It was like $200 for the harness, but it was $2,000 for all the diagnostic time. And, but that fixed it. I don't know if that might help him, something he can look into there, but I would just tell him to put everything back together and take it up to Pittsburgh Power and just tape up that switch and not worry about it.
Somebody else sent me a message online saying they had the same problem and it was a wiring harness, and that's a known problem.
There you go. Yeah. You got two people telling you that.
Yep.
All right. Well, good luck to him. I don't know if Leroy might have, or maybe Kevin. My ignition switch quit on me, this 03 Volvo. And I know the switches are pretty much the same up through the mid-teens, I believe. You turn the key and you get no power to the dash. You still have your marker lights, flashers, all that other stuff is fine. Batteries are good. We unplugged the switch, jumped it, got everything to work. So this was over the weekend. Yesterday I went to Volvo, picked up a new ignition switch, changed it out, and it's still not working. But right now I've got it bypassed. I've got the switch just kind of sitting here with a bunch of wire connectors, and so you got to kind of do the old school tap to start a wire with the hot wire, and it fires up. And is there anything else in that ignition switch that you know of, like with the key? Or the dealer said no, it's just a cylinder to lock the ignition. I just can't figure out why. If you hot wire it, and that would say that within your ignition's bad, you put in a new ignition and it doesn't fix it.
Yeah, the key switch is just kind of the key switch. So I mean, if you already replaced it and you're still having an issue, probably not the key switch. But you saying it's working if you jump it though?
Well, like right now, if you're familiar with an ignition switch on the Volvo, you've got the wires that come up, and there's a black square plug that plugs into the ignition switch, which is the ignition switch has the male prongs on it, right? The plug has the female prongs. Okay. The piece that I replaced, the ignition switch, it's not even being used at the moment. So the key is pretty much, you could take it out and not even use it. The only way to start the truck is I've got a bunch of connectors plugged into the plug. You know those bullet connectors that you can plug in and unplug? I've got those wired up together. I've got extra wires going over to the relays for like the radio. Everything's working. It's just hot wired. So that makes, that's why I'm saying it's the power is coming to this plug, but it's not transferring to the ignition. You follow me?
Yeah, I think so.
You've got 6 wires that come up to the ignition plug, right? Hot. One goes to the dash. Other one goes to the fuel pump because it's ISX. When you turn the key, you get that whirring sound. Okay. Then you've got 2 other wires that go to the circuit breakers. You can hear them clicking over underneath the CB. Your 6th wire is your starter.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
I could send you a picture of it, but I don't want to give people ideas of. It's not very hard to hot wire a truck, but.
Well, that's what I'm just kind of confused, like why the switch wouldn't work, because it's just internally jumping it when you are moving it around. So there's not any really magic to it. So I'm kind of confused why the new switch.
I didn't know if there was some other electrical part in that hole, because you don't replace the part with the key. The part you replace is just got the 6 prongs on it. That's it. 2 screws hold it in. So, but I just didn't know if you'd had any. Maybe Kevin's had all those.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else will.
Maybe email me a photo and I can help you out a little bit more, because I'm just thinking of like a very standard like key switch that you would put like in anything. I don't know if this has some sort of like extra data link lock that has to see the key or something like that. I'm not real sure on that one.
I've never seen it as an issue.
I need to call up there because I need my oil pressure sensor. It's also a oil temp sensor, because my scan gauge is showing a steady 20.5 oil pressure. And I know it's more than that, because it never moves, no matter if you idle or rev it up or what. So I was going to go with an aftermarket or something online, but I've been told to go OEM because you never know what you're going to get. So I'm sure Eric could be the one to call here later today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for sure.
All right. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Georgia. David, welcome.
Oh, hey, guys. I got a 17 ISX Cummins 2350. I'm looking for some information about setting the overhead on it.
What do you want to know?
Oh, the gap set for the intake, the jake, and all that. You have that information off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, Eric's.
I don't either.
You can look in front of your computer if you want to look it up. But what year is it?
17.
17. You said it's 17.
Yeah, it's the 17. It's the 2350.
You have to be patient with Eric's chicken pecking.
Yeah, I'm not really typing.
That's fine. I understand that all too well.
Why don't you ask me the valve settings on a big cam, then I could answer it for you.
Well, if I had one, I would ask you, but I don't got one. Yeah, because I'm doing a lot. I'm fixing to do a lot of work to this truck. I'm putting in a new air-to-air, a new radiator, a new front main seal, and while I'm going to do that, I'm going to try to figure out how to run overhead on it and everything, trying to save some money instead of taking it somewhere and having it done. I'm going to try to do all this myself.
That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, because I'm getting over a $7,000 tire lick that my tires got ice picked down in Georgia, and I had to replace 10 tires I wasn't wanting to replace. So I'm trying to save money everywhere I can.
All right, we finding it?
Why don't we just walk next door and ask Brian?
I think he just got up to walk over there. So it looks like the. Oh, okay. We have an answer. I also pulled it up on your computer if you want to read it off.
Yep. According to Brian, they are the same as they've always been. So they are. My glasses on here. Wow, I am getting old.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want. Let's see here. Intake is going to be 19 thousandths.
Okay.
Exhaust is 32 thousandths.
Okay.
And it's 72 inch-pounds.
72 inch-pounds for the torque to tighten them back up.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
No.
What about the Jake?
What?
What about the Jake brake setting on it? What's
the Jakes are minimum 271, maximum 281.
Okay.
I got a question about the 72 inch-pounds. Is that for the adjusting screw nuts?
I would believe so. That's what Brian said. He said, just make sure you tell him 72 inch-pounds. So I'm assuming he meant the adjusting nuts.
I was going to say I don't think that would be in foot-pounds because you probably break something.
That's only 6 foot-pounds. Are these? Wow. Are the adjusting screws small?
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, so that was 19 on the intake, and what was the exhaust?
Exhaust was 32 max.
2 max. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's like I said. I'm going to dive off the deep end into this and see if I can figure out how to do it myself without getting in too much trouble.
There you go.
Yeah, we always set them for 14 and 27 is where we usually set them.
14 and 27. Okay, that's what I was wondering about because I was watching a YouTube video and they said 14 and 27, and I'm like, well, I want to check and make sure that would be right. So,
yeah, that's like split is where you want to set them. Yeah, 276 on the Jake. So that'd be like exactly splitting the difference between minimum and maximum.
Okay. All right. Well, I ordered a tool that said it was 7 millimeter for the Jake brake set. Does that sound right, or is that too much?
Nope, that sounds right here. 7 millimeter. Yeah, 7 millimeter is 0.276 inches. So you're perfect. Okay. And then, do you have metric feeler gauges for the valves too?
Well, I just ordered a set of feeler gauges for it to do it because I don't have feeler gauges, so I don't know if they're going to be metric or standard.
Okay, if they're metric, you want 35 for the intake, and then you want 0.68 millimeter for the exhaust, which is equivalent to 14 and 27.
Okay, all right. All righty. Well, like I said, I'm going to jump off the deep end here and see if I can figure out how to do this.
14 and when we did the big cam and the outer base circle method on the big cam, that was 14 and 27.
That's what Brian said. He said it's been the same for years, but he doesn't. He must. I misspoke on the torquing. That's not right because I'm reading through this. The torque on the valve itself is 5 inch-pounds. So when you put your Allen wrench down inside the set screw in the valve, or on top of the valve, that is 5 inch-pounds. And then the lock nut is 33 foot-pounds.
Okay. All right. I think I can remember that.
So just remember, 33 is just a little tighter. Spark plugs are supposed to be at 25 foot-pounds, so just a little tighter than what you'd make a spark plug.
Okay.
And then on the engine brake adjusting screw, you want 177 inch-pounds.
Okay. 77. All right. Well, there's my information there. On that, I had a question about your remote tuner. Could I got I'm right outside of Nashville, and I know you got a guy in Nashville, Cookville area that does it. I want to just get hooked up to the truck and look at it and see if there's any updates that needs to be done to the ECM or anything, because it hadn't been updated in 3 or 4 years. So do I call him and set the appointment up, or do I call y'all and set the appointment up?
You'll call him, and whenever time you guys get scheduled, we'll be around. So.
All right, yeah, because it's already got your tune in it, so I don't know if there's any fine tuning that needs to be done to that or not, because 4 or 5 years old, you put the tune in it. So
yeah, we can take a look. So.
Okay. All right. Well, all right, gentlemen, I appreciate the information. So, like I said, I'm gonna see what happens when I get into this next week. So.
All right. Sounds good. Let's head off to Washington. Arthur, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin and fellow Flockers.
There you go. What's on your mind today?
I picked up a 1991 Isuzu NTR with a 3.9 diesel, and I had it looked over by a friend who's a working on mechanic, being a mechanic, and he said everything looked good, and everything from my end, just checking out, it looked good. I was wondering, is there anything I should be aware of on those 3.9s in terms of maintenance, any setting anything, any adjustments on the little diesel itself, or is it just basic maintenance on that one? Got 194,000 miles on it.
It would be the basic maintenance, and just like the last gentleman, look and see what it takes to set the valves and what the settings are, and go over the overhead, because chances are it's going to be tight.
Okay. All righty. Well, that's all I have for today.
All right. Thanks for the call. That was an easy one. Let's go to Wisconsin. This is going to be our last call of the day. Abe, welcome.
Good afternoon. How are y'all today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Looking at this drivetrain on this truck, curious what y'all think about it. It's got an X15 in it, set at 450 horsepower. The 12-speed Endurance was 285s.
What's the final gear ratio? Is it single overdrive, direct?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm just looking at this truck online. It says it's a 12-speed Endurance, so I'm not into it that deep yet.
Yeah.
What year is the truck?
Chose to be 21, built in 20.
Okay.
Without knowing which transmission, we could guess, but I've seen some weird configurations sometimes, so I hate to guess. If it were a single overdrive, it wouldn't be horrible. It's not great, but it wouldn't be horrible. If it's a direct, it's awful. Those are probably the two options that it's going to be, but we have to know. So I've seen people spec something like this with the direct, and if you're willing to drive at 55 miles an hour, you'd be okay. If it's a single overdrive, it might be okay. That gear ratio is still too low, even on an X15.
Okay.
But without knowing that final ratio in the transmission, I really can't say.
Gotcha. Okay. And in order to figure out what that is, you got to have the transmission number, right? Model number on the transmission.
Model number helps. You could call a dealer with the VIN number and probably get it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if it's a double over, it'd be okay. And if did I get that right? Or did you say single over?
Single
over. I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Bruce.
It's going to be a 0.85 overdrive or somewhere around there. But it would be interesting, and I'd like to know if you find out, either come back on the show or call the office and let me know. With that 285, it would be interesting. This has low pro 22.5 tires, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll bet it's a 0.85, but it would be interesting to see if it's down around a 0.73, 0.76. If you could find
Okay,
the
well,
last 3 years, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and let us know.
Okay. Well, I've got the VIN number on the truck, so I'll see if they can provide that for me.
Yeah.
All right. That
If
should
not,
work.
call Eaton.
I'm sorry?
If not, give Eaton a call with the transmission number.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I'll do that. Appreciate y'all's time.
All right. Thanks for the call. That's going to wrap it up for calls today. Bruce, I love this line I just read. This sounds like how business works. Listen to this. Success is the result of good judgment. Good judgment is the result of experience, and experience is often the result of bad judgment. Doesn't that sound like how business works every day?
It sure does.
You do something stupid, you learn from it, and then you don't do that stupid thing anymore, but you're going to do something stupid again.
Well, but that's how we learn. You have to
Right.
learn from your mistakes. When you
Exactly.
do something and you make a mistake, you have to stand back and say, all right, now what did I do here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was from Tony Robbins. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody have anything
There's
they
a
want to
lot.
close with?
Nope. Nope.
All right. We're going to wrap this up for today. We will see you back here next week. I have CMC this afternoon, so I will see you then, and we'll be back tomorrow with Destination Health. I think I have a guest tomorrow. Let me check. I do. I found a group that helps farmers convert their operations over to regenerative farming. It's a whole group that does this. So I'm bringing somebody on from that group. I think that should be interesting. We'll see you then. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Oh, wait a minute. One more thing. I forgot to mention the CMC. CMC registration is open. We are back at Matt's. We are now an official part of the Mid-America Truck Show. You can go to letstruck.com and click on events and truck show to get registered, or you can go directly to truckingshow.com and look for the CMC Live. CMC Live is going to be on March 26th and 27th. 27th is also the day that the truck show starts. So it'll be a full day on Wednesday, a half a day on Thursday, and then you can go right into the truck show. We'll see you tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.